Flood on the river? Such factions here we had, as commonly attest, such voyages, that a pair of gallows was made. But Captain Smith, for whom they were intended, could not be persuaded to use them. It's kind of funny. Do you think you really could persuade anyone to use a gallows? No. Pressy, you feel like trying the gallows today? It's not something you could persuade someone to use. So it's kind of a joke. It's kind of a play with words. Who wrote this? Shows he has a bit of a sense of humor, right? All right, so page 47. The next morning, dawn's clear and warm. Captain Smith is back in chains and the gallows sit ready. Reverend Hunt calls us together for Sunday services. We meet, gathered round the trees where Captain Smith is chained so that he can join us. Reverend Hunt's sermon goes on for hours. I think maybe he will not stop until every single one of us promises to never sin again. He says to tell a lie is a sin, and that any man who lies for his own gain and does not repent will spend eternity in the agony of hell's flames. He looks right at Master Wingfield and Captain Radcliffe delivering his sermon with passion. I see Master Wingfield squirm. Captain Radcliffe sets his jaws and stares straight ahead. Captain Newport looks at the two of them and shakes his head. I send up a prayer that Reverend Hunt's sermon will save Captain Smith from hanging. After services, I bring Captain Smith some food. I wonder if it'll be his last meal. Yet he is calm. Follow along with me in the book, top of page 48. I've been a prisoner before, and I escaped before. When I was a soldier fighting the Turks of the Ottoman Empire, I was captured and made a slave. They shaved my head, put an iron ring around my neck, and brought me to auction to be sold as a beast. James and Richard are nearby, and they come closer to listen. The other slaves told me it was useless to try to escape. Impossible, they said. But one day we were working in the fields, and I was threshing wheat and threshing bat with my threshing bat. My master rode up on horseback with his whip. He cracked the whip, brought it down on my naked back, and lashed my skin open. I was enraged. I took my threshing bat in both hands and swung. He swings his arm as if it's knocking the cruel master from his horse once again. Down he came, and before he could get his footing, I cracked the bat over his head. And then I beat him with the stub until there was no life left in him. No wonder Captain Smith is unafraid of these pale, weak gentlemen with their threats. If he wants to, he could kill him with his bare hands. And then I shocked off my slave rags, put on my master's clothes, and rode off on his horse to my freedom. Captain Smith finishes his story. The three of us boys are silent. I admire his courage, and I admire the way he talks to the gentlemen as if they have no right to lord over him. I've never known another commoner who had the nerve to do that. Reverend Hunt comes marching up, a ring of keys dangling. He takes the keys to the clamps on Captain Smith's ankles. I've convinced them that without you, as translator, we will all perish in Virginia, he says, as the clamps open and fall away. Thank you, Reverend, Captain Smith says, rubbing his ankles. I owe you a favor. Captain Hunt gives him a stern look. Reverend Hunt gives him a stern look. This is the favor I want. I want you to at least act as though you have the proper respect for these gentlemen. If you insult them and anger them, they may choose their pride over their survival in the new world. Captain Smith nods, and I wonder if he really does plan to be polite to the exalted gentleman from here on in. He is at least as stubborn as I am, so I know it will be hard for him to change. That afternoon, the sound of chopping wood rings out over the rumbling of waves. The gallows is cut up and thrown into the fire, where it nicely roasts our fish for supper. After 6 days on Nevis, I am fatter. The birds are so tame we pluck them out of the bushes with our hands. The sea is teeming with fish, and the trees are full of fruit. We don't have our dry erase out, but what do you think? Raise your hand if you can give me a synonym for teeming. The sea is teeming with fish. What would be a good word to replace that one? Brandon.
A lot.
Okay, the sea is a lot with fish. It's close, but I don't know if it makes complete sense. Brianna.
Cluttered.
The sea is cluttered with fish. Ooh, that could work. Michaela.
The sea is full of fish.
The sea is full of fish. Kindle.
Overflow.
Ooh, nice one. Overflowing with fish. The sea is overflowing with fish. And the trees are full of fruit. The only natives on the island are afraid of us, and they stay well hidden. I am also cleaner. I have gone twice to the hot pools in the forest to bathe. But now Captain Newport says it's time to leave. We pack up the tents and the cook pots, barrels we have filled with fresh water, meat and fish we have dried for the rest of our voyage, and crates full of pineapples, mangoes, plantains, coconuts, and wild bird eggs. We sail past the Spanish islands of Biscay and Puerto Rico. We stop on the island of Mona just long enough to get fresh water and for a group of gentlemen to go hunting. They leave in the morning, taking a few soldiers with them for protection from the natives. They dress as if they are going pheasant hunting on a cool English morning. In their silk doublets, their velvet breeches, their stockings, shoes, felt hats, with their powder flasks hanging at their sides. So how are they going to feel on their little expedition?
Fancy.
They're going to feel fancy, all right. But what else besides fancy on these Caribbean islands that are so close to the equator? We know they're very warm. They're going to be really hot. Can you imagine dressed as we are right now hanging out down in South Florida?
Nope.
No.
Right, that's the same kind of thing, boys and girls, especially with these thick sweaters and our hoodies. We'd start to get really, really warm. Our natural inclination would to be wearing shorts and maybe a shirt like Samantha has on. But they wouldn't dare take those off because they wouldn't be so what? Royal and fancy. Okay, so they're more worried about their looks than their common sense. The group returns in the evening, exhausted and faint, carrying what the expedition has killed: 2 boars, several iguanas, and the gentleman Edward Brooks. They say Brooks' fat melted inside his body in the extreme heat. So what happened to him? Yeah, when you get dehydrated, boys and girls, that can get very dangerous. That can kill one. That's why it's so important to stay hydrated in the heat. Continue to drink water. Water is the best replenisher of your fluids. Captain Smith has a few choice words to say about the gentlemen who are too ignorant to know that they should carry enough water on a 6-mile hike in the tropics, and too ignorant to take off their extra clothing when they get hot. But this time, he's wise enough not to utter those words where any of the gentlemen can hear him. I did not know Edward Brooks well. He was a passenger on one of the other ships. Still, it is strange to see his pale, waxy skin and his limbs stiff with death. They dig a shallow grave for Master Brooks, and we sail away, leaving him there on Mona. I have dreams at night that the cannibals find his body, dig him up, and eat him. I awake in a cold sweat. I try to calm down, reminding myself that this could not possibly happen. No one digs up a grave for food. That's like a huge exclamation point after that sentence. No one digs up graves for food. Say it.
No one digs up graves for food.
Or maybe they do. That's creepy.